The engines roar in the background, the sun begins to set, the green flag flies, and we are racing here in very, very sketchy deep contact, and there goes Valentin Barrier. Oh, the leader's lost it. Noah Ader loses it into the gravel at the final corner, loses it. That's an amazing bit of work there from Luke Harrison.
Inside we have three abreast heading into Brual.
It's been lights to flag victory for George Boothby. He's done everything that's been required. It's looked so bloody easy yet again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Genisus Risk Esports Challenge. This is Season 3, and we are here for race number 5 at the Circuit de Barcelona in Catalunya, Spain, for what is set to be an awesome 60-minute race. Of course, my name is David Christie. It is an absolute pleasure to welcome you all on board here tonight. It is a packed commentary box here, as in the booth we've got Joe Peak, and down in pit lane trackside we've got Tapelo Merioli making his very welcome return. We strapped a 5G backpack to him today. Make sure that we can hear him loud and clear. Gentlemen, Joe, we'll start with yourself. A very warm welcome back to the booth. Race 5 of the championship already.
Yeah, and we're starting to get a better sense of who to watch out for this season. Boothby looking incredibly strong. Caracas has the speed, but doesn't have the luck or the consistency, it seems. So he's going to need to try and get that in order. But Malinowski, boy, what a presence he has shown himself to be as well.
Yeah, he is massively outperforming himself, as we would have thought here. But it's a 12-round calendar that we've got here. We end things at the end of June at the Nordschleife. We're coming up to that halfway point here with Barcelona. We're off to Bathurst next week. Some big tracks still to come here. So a lot of opportunities, a lot of meat on the bone, as they would say, in terms of points for the championship as well. And talking of which, then, it seems about time that we actually have a little look at the championship standings, because of course some big points that are left to go from that. Before that though, we will get a quick look at the prizes that we're going to get on there as well. But here are the stand-ins as we see Amadeo Castorino, George Boothby in second place there. So just 3 points between them, and then 3 points as well between Boothby and Caracas as well. So I mean, looking within that, then you've got, what's that, from first place to 10th place there, 40 points separating the top 10. Absolutely nothing. That means absolutely nothing at this stage of the championship. Remember, drop rounds are going to be a factor in there as well. So again, everything to play for right now, and it doesn't mean that the first 4 rounds count for nothing. It just sets them all up very nicely. But still, with these 8 rounds that or 7 or 8 rounds that remain, it's all on the table for them just now. So there you go. That is how things shape up just now. In terms of the prizes that we've got on board for the season, remember, $530 to the winner, and a 3-month Coach Dave Delta as well as the IMB gloves. There's $325 for second place, and the extras as well for third, fourth and fifth. In total, a $1,250 prize pool across the top 5. That is a hell of an offering for the championship. And as always, we have to say a huge thank you to our partners at IMB Racewear and Coach Dave Delta for helping us out with that. And you at home also get to keep in with the action as well. You'll get a chance every single race to win a $10 Steam voucher as well. We'll tell you more about that in just a second. In the meantime, let's check out what happened with some highlights of the last round. Let's take you through the grid then for round 4 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. On the front row, it is George Boothby in the Ferrari for Veloci Esports, alongside Florian Durkop for Get Quick Racing in the Honda. On row 2 is Valentin Barrier for Slow In Fast Out in the Aston Martin. Here from Zolder, the green flag flies and we get underway. That's a cracking start from Florian Durkop. He's trying to go around the outside, but he's not going to have the pace there. Immediately coming under pressure there from Valentin Barrier. George Boothby has a little bit of daylight there. You can see the BMW there as well. Philippe Minard trying to make a move. They get into orderly fashion, but there's a bit of an accident further on. That's a Merc off into the gravel in the background there. They'll rejoin. Just the one car that we've lost at this early stage in the race. They will get going again. For the most part, we're all single file traffic here, and we're starting to see already some fairly decent gaps here.
Honzik, though, is trying to make an aggressive move through Turleman and actually is successful there.
This is Cody Sheraton. What happened to him? So this looks like it's coming up to that right-hander up to Boulderberg loft, and it's on the brakes and just makes to be fair, that was less of an accident, more of an accident avoidance there, as Abe Santema in the middle of a contact there, and I'm not sure that there's going to be getting Christmas cards sent between those two. That's 3 drivers tonight that have Jack Alexander, I get the feeling he's going to be getting, what we say about race control slapping wrists. I don't think it's going to be a wrist getting slapped. I think his wrist might get broken tonight.
This is that incident from lap 3, so let's see how egregious this was. That's pretty egregious. That's, see if we can find out a little bit more on what went down into the Kleine chicane. Wow, yeah, he took way too much of the first one. And
this isn't a drop round, but the problem is with 8 minutes left to go. Wait, what? What?
Boothby in second.
How did he lose that position, or was that on pit lane? That's what we need to know here. Either way, I mean, this is going to be a huge fight here. But the thing is that already we're starting to see Philippe Minard trying to. I will come back to that in a second. Good God Almighty, as the good old JR would say. What a move for George Boothby. I'm sorry. A, we need to get a replay of that, and B, just again, the absolute confidence that he has in that car is absurd. Looks to the outside here. What happens next?
Just a mistake. And I kind of, that's what I could tell, honestly, from inside the car when we were watching it. He's a bit of a wild man, and yeah, I agree. I think if we're going to see something unfold, I think that is the spot to be, as Murphy finally has the run that he needs, and I think this is smart from Minard here. I think just let him go.
From Eamon Murphy, who has got a bit of a gap there. Let's have a look here. What happened? Completely unassisted from Chris Hartfeld over that second chicane there. Bang into the front left there. I think he's just decided to give that position there to the McLaren for some reason. It did look like he tried to let off there. The Honda tries to keep it in, but it's going to be the McLaren sticking over the inside of the chicane. Eamon Murphy up to P2, and it's another win for George Boothby. Crucial points in the championship. Welcome back, Mr. Boothby, and just the 12 seconds ahead of Eamon Murphy at the end of that race. Murphy is going to finish in second position, and Florian Durkop is indeed going to finish in third ahead of Philippe Minard, so he will get that podium position. Brilliant effort there, brilliant fight for Florian Durkop to do that. Philippe Minard fourth, Valentin Barrier takes fifth. Welcome back then. So there we go. That brings you up to speed to what happened with race number 4 of the championship, as we go straight into qualifying here at Barcelona. And of course, being in Catalunya, this 2.894 mile circuit here, it really does, offer the drivers, Joe, a lot of different challenges here, because it's a high-speed circuit. You've got that start-finish straight where you're really putting the power down. And then you've got the usual collection of twists and turns, but then, part of the circuit that obviously has been removed in real life in recent years, but that last RACC chicane that we're just seeing Grantis Caracas coming up to now, for me, it feels like it takes the entire rhythm of the circuit away.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a fan of it having the normal Europe car second to last corner heading through there without the chicane. But it is what it is, and everybody's going to have to face it the same. The big thing is the question whether or not that chicane is going to separate them, because like you said, you have that long front straight, which usually means the best place to pass is into turn 1, into Elf. And that chicane can sometimes actually separate the cars slightly, as they all have to leave some space with them being so slow through that corner. So we'll see if that affects the GT3 class cars as much as it does Formula One cars. But regardless, like I said, everybody's on the same track. So
yeah, they absolutely are. And with qualifying coming to an end, just a couple of things to bring you up to speed with tonight. Chat giveaway for your chance to win a $10 Steam voucher. Type the word risk into the YouTube chat. So simply type the word risk into the Genisus Extreme live YouTube chat, and you can get yourself in with a chance to get on that magic wheel at the end of the broadcast, as we're watching Tommy Rozier making his way through the first half of the circuit just now. So Jack Alexander at the moment then, currently on pole position, 141.960 ahead of Grantis Caracas there. So 4/100ths of a second. That's not all that much, but not surprisingly, again, it looks like that outside of that, we have got a significant amount of cars, probably about 25 to 30 cars within 1 second of our race leader.
So once again, it seems like it's tight competition here. But yeah, I mean, 4/1000ths of a second, you consider that this is a decently long lap for GT cars. It's not the longest out there, but this isn't like what we see with the open wheelers where, they're whipping around here in a minute 20. It's a full minute 40. It's 4/1000th is practically inches between the cars as they cross the line. So, I mean, just a tiny little better exit here or there could make such a huge difference in being first, or as we can see, down in 23rd.
Certainly could. And again, with those it sounds like it's a tiny amount, and that's because it is. But having such a significant effort and a significant impact on your race is it's going to be gutting. I mean, the fact we've got like Luke Addison down in 24th position, Jaroslav Honzig in 22nd as well. They're only 0.7 of a second off of the pace right now, but I mean, that is a hell of a work that they've got to do to try and bring themselves through this crowd. And we know that these drivers here are not afraid of getting their arms and elbows and every other upper body part in the way of these cars here. So I mean, my prediction tonight, I think it's going to be a fairly orderly affair in terms of how things progress here. I think we're going to see a high chance of some lunges going in with some of the cars that maybe feel they're out of position, desperate to try and make those positions back up here. But other than that, with its very stop-start nature, I think that things will very quickly jump into gaps. So we'll be keeping an eye on how that all progresses here. But we're into the final minute of qualifying here. Again, just looking through the top 10 here, and also just reminded that you can claim your lifetime license there for ACC Drive. That is ACC Drive for just €25. ACC Drive is your one-stop shop for Assetto Corsa Competizione. Whether you need an overlay, whether you need a virtual engineer for your racing, or whether you need anything for your stream at all, ACC Drive is your one-stop shop, and you can get a lifetime license for it for a limited time only for just €25. Scan the QR code in the bottom right of the screen and grab your lifetime license today. Qualifying coming to an end though. Jack Alexander believes he's done what he needs to. Still, that 141.9 is enough to take pole position right now as it stands, but still several cars on a lap just now, including this man here, Maciej Malinowski, who jumps up into P3. Now, one of the things you said on the build-up there, Joe, was the fact that Maciej has been turning a lot of heads in these early races in the season.
He really has, and I think that backs it up right there. Looking at a potential fourth row start, jumping all the way up to the second row at the last moments. Really clutch lap for him at the end. Like I mentioned, you don't have to make up a lot of time to jump up a number of spots. Caracas is going to do what he can here, as he could take the pole away. I'm not sure if he's on a flyer, though, but looks like he's going to wrap it up anyways.
Here he comes out of that final corner then. Comes across the line, and it's not. It's a 142.117, so it's actually slightly slower than his fastest lap. Amadeo Castorino is on a flyer as well. What can he do coming up to the rack chicane? We've got another car just up in front of Chris Hartfeld. Hartfeld coming through the final corner, but I don't believe Hartfeld's going to improve. We'll keep an eye on that though as he goes across the line. No, he doesn't improve, but Amadeo Castorino then, one of the final couple of cars to go across the line. No improvement there, 142.185, so just 1/100th of a second. Such is the cruel nature of this circuit. Philippe Menard's going to be very lucky not to exceed track limits there as he comes outside the rack chicane, but what can the 255 BMW driver do? Not improve, that's what he can do. 1/10 of a second off his previous lap there, and there we go, qualifying done and dusted. But Jack Alexander in the leads, in pole position here, Joe. Now, again, my question is the temperament. We saw it last time out. It's all very well and good having the pace, having the speed there, but if you're going to throw the towel in at, whenever there's a problem, or if you get into any issues, it's going to make things difficult for your season.
Yeah, you got to push hard and try and carry it out all the way to the finish, see the checkered flag, do damage limitation from time to time. We've seen many champions that sometimes it comes down to simply, well, the car isn't a winning car today, so I get that 5th place, that 6th, 7th, 8th, or whatever I need to collect those points. It's not determined by your best days. It's determined by your worst days, usually, on where you wind up when all is said and done.
It certainly is. So we'll give it a couple of seconds. We'll head down to the grid, though. Sharing that pole position, or sharing that front row with him, Grantis Caracas in second place for that number 19. We've got 2 Ferraris on the front row of the grid. I wonder if that qualifying pace is going to convert to race pace.
Yeah, like I said, we've got so many long corners here, so cars that are a little bit more stable in fast sweepers probably going to have a bit of a better time on this track, setting it up for that. And seems like Ferrari does decently, but we don't see another one down until 7th position.
Yeah, I'm just actually keeping an eye on the times that they got here, and I believe that we've got 24 drivers within 1 second of that pole lap. But cars on the grid then, and it's Jack Alexander in pole position. Sharing that front row with him, as we said, is the number 19 Ferrari of Grantis Caracas. Moving on to row 2, and in 3rd position, Maciej Malinowski in that 992 random pasta bowl Porsche, lined up alongside an amazing qualifying performance, has to be said, for Tommy Rozier in the 29 McLaren. Great job for him. Amadeo Castorino in 5th position in the Aston Martin in 23 is going to be alongside Philippe Menard on row 3 in the 255 BMW. Then on row 4 is George Boothby. He's going to be alongside Mikhail Statsenko and another 2 of the Ferraris. Row 5 is going to be Chris Hartfeld in the 57 Ferrari, alongside Team Nitro's Noah Ader in the 46 McLaren. Corey Sherritt in the 38 Ferrari for Genisus Esports is on row 6 alongside Eamon Murphy in the Veloce McLaren. That's the number 66 car in 12th position. 13th and 14th on row 7 is Marco Bischoff for Team Nitro in the number 2 McLaren. He's alongside Marco Schade for Get Quick E-Racing in that big bad Honda 65. And then on row 8 is Albin Manson alongside Valentin Barrier. Eric Muxka is alongside Henry Meyer on row 9 with the Ferrari and the McLaren line up beside each other. It's then Maximilian Frank in 19th position in the 310 Porsche, alongside Alexander Nietzen in the 838 McLaren, 19th and 20th respectively. It's Jaroslav Honzig is joining us in row 11. He is in the 39 Aston Martin alongside the 63 Honda of Florian Durkop. Then in row 12 is Abe Santima alongside Luke Addison. Row 13 is going to be Samir Foch alongside Fleming Bauer. And then Noel Hutchie lines lines up on row 14 with Jan Rochelle. They're going to be making their way through from the back of the grid there, but it does look like clear blue skies here in Barcelona, and well, that's at least one relief for a lot of these drivers, that the weather is clear.
Exactly. Not having to deal with what they did for a couple of those first rounds were certainly tested their wet weather skills. Also a note that the number 4 of Bauer is going to be given a penalty on the warm-up lap. He had a collision during qualifying, so they're going to send him, I assume, to the back of the field for the start of this one.
Yeah, a great spot on that one, actually. I did see that that coming in, and that is going to be... Well, I mean, you'd rather have that at the start of the race here, I guess, than a little bit later on. But either way, the car's making their way off through the start of this lap here. So we haven't actually spoken too much about the circuit then. So this gives us the perfect opportunity to do so around this 2.9 mile circuit here as they come up towards turn number 1. This is coming up through Elf Corner. This is a little bit of a complex here because you're going through the right and then the left to take you through Seat here, and again, it's so important that you don't take too much of that curve on the inside, because you want to have a nice run out of that left-hander. That's where you want to let the throttle back down, and that's where you want to get back on the power as you come round through Renault Corner, through that turn number 3 here. This is a stretch up as well here. They can really get back on the gas on the run up to Repsol. This, sweeping right-hander where the cars just pull in, but it's one of those that you have to be so patient on. I know it's one that I'm very greedy on. I used to love doing this in Gran Turismo 7 because the cars didn't respond in the same kind of way that ACC does. You could just hold on to the throttle, and then you head up through into to Seat Corner here. And let's have it. Oh, sorry, there you go. There's confirmation then of that penalty for Fleming Bauer there, Joe, between car 4 and 144 during qualifying, 15 seconds for causing a collision. That is on par with it, but you can't be doing that through qualifying.
Yeah, so I think that's a fair penalty there, because you can compromise your competitors so easily in qualifying, especially at this track. We talked about certain corners really inviting you. This one, Campsa, definitely does. You can't see it from this angle, but there's quite a rise here, and it's at the worst possible place because it really throws the car out wide. You'll see a lot of drivers understeer off into that runoff. And I wonder if we're going to see the track limits tested a bit much, and we'll get a couple drivers winding up with a penalty, having that drive-through for going over track limits too often.
Yeah, and that is going to be a big thing over the course of the evening. We've seen it many times as well, when drivers are absolutely giving it full beans and maybe just giving it a little bit too much and then getting a drive through. And yeah, we've seen quite a few of the drivers deciding that enough is enough. Right, down to my favourite part of the circuit, the rack chicane. Hopefully that's not going to be too much of an issue here tonight, but a slightly scrappy formation lap by a lot of these drivers here. They're not really getting themselves in the order. Now they go in 2x2 formation, but it's going to be Jack Alexander and Grantis Caracas that are going to be leading this field round. Some big gaps still outside of that top 10, but again, I think they'll all even themselves out. But we get ready to go green flag racing here as the green flag drops. 60 minutes, 28 cars, and this is going to be round 5 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Have a look at Malinowski. He's having a look up the inside of Caracas, gets shoved off onto the grass. That's surely going to get looked at a little bit later on by race control there. A chaotic start to the race, but the Ferrari of Grandes Caracas put down into P2 there, and that was an aggressive move there by Jack Alexander.
Yeah, it was a little bit shocking, honestly. Now Malinowski's not out of it, as Razair has got himself a look up the inside. Can he finish the job is the question. Honestly, it's hard to hold the defense, and yeah, you can see Malinowski's going to have to fall back.
Yeah, fun fact, I had my only shot at being a race steward in a similar situation like that, and actually disqualified the person that was involved. It was like a carbon copy of that. It was at Silverstone, and somebody just deliberately ran the other car off the track on a straight, and it was like, it's a community event. What are you doing? You don't need to be doing that. So I don't think that's what we're going to see here tonight. But yeah, you cannot be doing that sort of thing. We've had a couple of drive-through penalties. I wonder if that is because the car's not in the right position. We've got chaos in the background there. At least 5 cars involved there. You've got the 88, the 65, and the number 3. You've got Marco Bischoff is involved in that. Florian Durkhoff was in it. Samir Foch was in it as well. And again, if you're involved in that sort of incident early on towards the back of the field here, Joe, makes it very, very difficult. As Eamon Murphy, I've got no idea how he got that car stopped in time, but in a cracking fight here with the Ferrari round the outside, the McLaren round the outside here. And this is how you do side-by-side racing here. Noah Ader with Eamon Murphy here. This is going to be a dive down into turn 1. You've got 2 Ferraris behind as well. Blocks at the last minute there, and Eamon Murphy somehow threads the eye of the needle. I cannot believe what I've just seen here. Tries to get around there. That was a sensational move there, Joe.
Last second, I mean, that's a complete awareness of what's happening around you to make that sort of split-second decision. Fantastic stuff. This has really erupted in the back. Drivers, I think, fighting fiercely because they know after this all settles, it's going to be a lot harder to try and make passes.
Well, I'm immediately going to have to apologise to my broadcast producer, because I was of the opinion this was going to be a fairly processional race, and dear God Almighty, it's absolutely not been. If we can have the entire 60 minutes of this, I think we're going to be dead by the end of it. But outside the top 10, this is just urban warfare going on right now. Jaroslav Honting right in the thick of it just now. He's up to P13. Big moves for Jardier then, getting himself up in that number 39 Aston Martin. He's chasing down Albin Manson, just 0.8 of a second there. You've got also Valentin Barrier in the mix there as well. He's got a car coming up the inside. That's Cody Sherritt trying to make a move. It is just Genesis cars left, right and centre here. You've got some Genesis on Genesis action there. I think that was Luke Addison trying to take Abe Santima there, and then that is going to be Santima then trying to take Cody Sherritt. Has to dip in behind here. That's given a little bit of a breather there. It's getting a little bit tight here. But meanwhile, at the front, it's still Jack Alexander out. And not looking too much under pressure right now, but after that early great start from Maciej Malinowski, kind of falling back a little bit into the clutches of Amadeo Castorino here.
Yeah, Malinowski's probably none too happy about how that all began, because he had a shot at maybe going for the lead early on and is now stuck outside of the podium. So he's got to try and make that up. And Castorino here is putting on quite a threat in the Aston Martin. Very difficult to pass here into Seat. It really drops away from you through this corner and kind of surprises you. So he's going to have to stay patient. Lakaja, the hairpin at the after Campsa, is probably the best spot if you're not going to do it in Elf.
There we go then. 55 minutes left to go in the race, and we're still watching Amadeo Castorino. You get the idea that Grantis Caracas might be just holding his line a little bit. And apologies for the audio issues there. I might have been an umpty and had my microphone turned up too loud. So this is what happens when you're up all night doing karaoke. And no word of a lie, that might have actually been what I was doing. But back to the race here, Marco Bischoff there, and that was the Ferrari there of Jan Rochelle. Slightly easy pickings there, it's got to be said, for Marco Bischoff. Obviously on a recovery drive, we're used to seeing this driver and seeing this driver much further up in the race now.
Yeah, so Bischoff has obviously got some work on his hands, but you and I were talking before the race that stuff like that is probably going to give us some more of the action, while Santima is serving one of his drive-throughs here, and this is painful. Look at how slowly they have to go down this long straightaway. But yeah, I'm pretty sure with the difficulty of overtaking, anybody that's been kind of disrupted, or maybe we're able to capitalize on some of that craziness on the first lap, are going to give us most of the fun as they either defend or attack.
Yeah. The other thing with that as well, and it's almost a meme because I do say it on every single broadcast, but it's that whole thing of like, oh, now, there you go. Actually, I didn't even realise that. I'm sorry if you did just say that, Joe. We'll bring this up from race control when it does come on in through them. But Jack Alexander, our race leader, has been absolutely slapped across the wrist. And we'll confirm it when we do get the graphic up. But Joe, there's absolutely no complaints about that one.
So, yeah, looks like they're going to try and hold them accountable for that sort of stuff. And yeah, I'm with you. I like aggressive driving, but there is a line. You need to have respect for your competitors. Pushing somebody all the way into the grass takes it a little bit too far. We're honestly lucky that he was able to bring it on without losing control and winding up with, basically the big one at Barcelona into turn one.
Yeah, the question is what is going to be the reaction? This is something that we've said for a couple of weeks now. We've seen when that happens. Let's get confirmation then from race control. Incident involving cars 1 and 992. That's Jack Alexander and Maciej Malinowski pushing a driver off the track. It's not like Malinowski chose to go on the track. He was literally had to go at the track to avoid colliding. And yeah, it's to be fair to Jack though, I mean, it's maybe a case of not knowing exactly where you are on the track. It's you're just concentrating on where you are. But yeah, I don't know. Either way, Malinowski now involved in this hell of a fight here. It's Tommy Rozier now involved also with Amadeo Casarino. Casarino does get the position back here. But Malinowski is really wanting to try and get back up here. But I get the feeling that it's going to be very, very difficult, because when it's a weird thing, isn't it, Joe? Because as a driver, when you're racing like this, where Malinowski is right now, he's not going to be looking at Caracas and Alexander. He's not going to be concentrating on setting his best possible times right now, because you can't help it. Your eyes see those flashing images in the mirror of an Aston Martin and a McLaren getting right close to you, and maybe the tyres are not working properly on that car just now or whatever, but he's more focused now on the cars behind him than in front.
I have to admit, I've always been a bit better of an attacker than a defender, because yeah, it's certainly its own mental fortitude. It's a skill you have to learn in racing, to be able to have those train of cars behind and not flinch when you see them closing in on you. He does need to focus forward on the 19, because we have to remember he's going to get promoted up to second. As it sounds like we got a replay. Let's see which incident we're going to look at here.
Well, so this is the race started. So let's keep an ID then. This is Jack Alexander on the left-hand side. Now look at the run that the Porsche of Maciej Malinowski gets there. And again, it's not once, not twice, not three. It's so different. That car does not need to be there. You can position the car there and make sure that that there's still enough space for that car there. It's kind of closing the door after the horse is bolted, as Malinowski then down into P4. Casarino then has got his act together and has now pulled that manoeuvre. I have a horrible feeling that Malinowski might be getting sent down to P6. We saw, actually, what I missed on the actual race start there was a couple of bits of contact between those two drivers. We don't know if there's any damage on that 992.
I think it was a light enough hit. He should have gotten away with it okay. I'd be a bit shocked if he wound up with anything that really compromises him in this race. But you mentioned it, that closing the door before or after the horse had already bolted, that really was the big thing on that for me. If it was something where they moved at the same time, or he had moved to defend or something like that, it'd be a bit of a different scenario. But because it was in reaction to that, to me, is what makes it a slam dunk. He had seen him already have that run, take the inside, and decided to try and squeeze him out instead of just putting his hands up and saying, okay, well, I'm in this position now and I just need to deal with it. And And maybe we could have had an exciting 3-wide run into the first turn instead of a penalty and now the leader going off. Now, we're going to look at it one more time. I also want to point out that Caracas now has the lead once that driver serves that penalty, so he can stay patient here. Okay, so we could see the wheel move just slightly there, David, twice.
Yeah, that's enough for me. And the thing is that it's one of those things, isn't it, Joe? I mean, it's a mistake on Jack Alexander's part. He's been punished from it. I think Malinowski will have escaped. Like I said, I don't think he's got too much damage on that. Certainly not enough to affect his race outcome there, other than being a little bit frustrated here. Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of a punishment, because if it wasn't for that, Alexander would be, clear in the start of the race. But also it comes down to the fact as well, and we've mentioned this time and time again, and I'm a big fan of this, is that it's the incident that gets punished and not the outcome. Because if it was the outcome and the fact that they were still there, it might have been a much less, but because it's to send a clear line there. Either way, do you know what is interesting as well is the fact that I'm still not going to put Jack Alexander outside of getting a potential top 5 / podium finish here tonight, even with that 15-second penalty. Such is the pace that the two of them have got right now. They are absolutely pulling away from the field right now. 2.5 seconds from third place and fourth place just now. That's helped with the fact that they're all fighting themselves just now, even down to the back of the grid here. Maximilian Frank here in the 310 Porsche fighting with Abe Santima, who was sent hurtling down that order. Now, he was fighting with some of the other Genisus Risk cars earlier on tonight, but unfortunately an earlier incident in lap 2 that sent him spinning round as we look back with Eamon Murphy here. Now, Eamon, again, another driver that we've seen, with incredible performances, and arguably one of the almost one of the moves of the season so far.
Yeah, but now he's got to back it up. I mean, making one move in the race is one thing, but then getting a good result afterwards, I think, is another. Ader just in front of him could allow him into the top 10, but he's going to have to get a little bit closer than this. And now we're into the more difficult part of the race, because everybody's had their fights. They settled out. It's all single file. You can see now that you can't really capitalize on someone being distracted by the other drivers around them. So you've really got to set up the pass, and might even need a significant pace difference.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing, though, is these penalties are going to have a huge effect on the race and the outcome of the race as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all unfolds. But either way, still watching Eamon Murphy chasing down Noah Ader. You can see all of these little packs start to open up here, and we're already just about a quarter of the way through our 5th round of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship. Very warm welcome if you have just joined us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard the Genisus Extreme channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as always, and we're happy to have you on board. A huge thank you as well as always to Genisus Risk, proud suppliers of Immersive Labs, and we'll talk a little bit more about that through the course of the race as well. But Albin Manson now starting to try and chase down Eamon Murphy and Jaroslav Honzig. Ader is up there as well, the fight for P10. I've also noticed that George Boothby getting a 15-second time penalty. Now, that was for a clatter into the back of Philippe Minard just a couple of laps ago. So, these penalties are coming in thick and fast here, and I get the feeling that it's going to be a very different top 10 in about 20 minutes time.
Certainly, not what we expected in this race to see a shake-up. So it'll be a pleasant surprise, no doubt, as Alexander here in the number 838 is certainly chasing hard. I think that's Noel Hache just in front of him that he's trying to put the pressure onto. The thing that surprised me, you were talking about all those cars ahead of Manson. Barrier is behind him. I'm not sure why, but it seems like he's struggling a bit today compared to the pace we usually see out of him.
No, I have to agree. There's quite a few drivers actually are nowhere near the positions that I would be expecting them to be on pace-wise. just now, but that could be maybe just not gelling with the circuit, maybe just not gelling with the car and the setup tonight. A whole myriad of reasons could be behind that, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see why that possibly is. But we have already crossed our first 15 minutes, our first quarter of the race, so 25% way through. Now we have to try and turn our attention to strategy and to potentially pit stops when they are coming in. For those that are new to the championship, there is a mandatory pit stop that has to be taken by the drivers. We see a move side by side here. Alexander Nyatt's in here for the UCR blue and yellow machine, makes move up the inside of Noel Hatchey and takes that position there. So that's P24 for the 838 McLaren. That was a very, very straightforward move. That was almost certainly set up many corners in advance. But as I said, we have to turn our attention now to strategy here. As you see on the left-hand side, you'll see an orange block beside the drivers and the number 1 beside them. That is signifying how many pit stops they are mandated to take in the race. So they still all have 1 left to do. And again, I've always been a fan of the overcut, letting the cars go in first and then jumping into the pits here. But what do you think on this circuit here, Joe? Do you think that's going to make any difference to it? Or would you be prepared just to kind of let everybody else go and go in later?
I think trying to hold out and save some fuel is probably the best strategy. But if you feel like you're being held up, as it looks like Foch is going to try and go around the outside and be able to get that one done. So that's going to move him up into 25th past not nice, and I think that's Hashe. Yeah, so it looks like Noel just kind of moving backwards a little bit. Yeah, I think the only time where it makes sense to try and pull the undercut here is if you're at the back of a line of cars and you know you're faster than them, someone who's gotten a penalty, things like that. Pit early, and then hopefully you can jump them if you've got clear track behind you.
Certainly. I think the thing as well is there's so many different variables that always go on through these races. There's always so many different moving pieces. As we've got another race control message, I think this is confirmation of the Boothby incident. Yep, incident involving car 800 255 on lap 1. 15-second penalty to car 800 for causing a collision. So that is for George Boothby, and that is for Philippe Minard as well. So there we go. But again, after that lap 1, it does seem to have calmed down a little bit. You know, we've got these pockets of little fights that are going on here, and this is after that sort of first 3 or 4 laps there. This is more what I thought Barcelona was going to give us here, because of its very stop-start nature. It was very likely that you know, you were always going to extend the field out and drag it out into these little pocket battles.
Yeah, right now Muxka here just in front of Bischoff. He's definitely hounding him, and we have seen a couple passes that show a little bit of respect between them. If you wanted to defend very aggressively, you could wind up being a real thorn in somebody's side, making it just too hard to pass. But you're both going to lose a lot of time, so it all kind of depends on where you think you can wind up. And it seems like Eric seems to believe that he can hold off Bischoff, who's going to try around the outside, and this is what I was talking about. Unless he can get ahead of him by this second apex, which could be possible, he could try and get it done, but now it's not over. Look at this. He's got to try and finish it through Renault, and he just slots right back in because it's such a long right-hander.
Yeah, and the problem with that as well is when you're going through Renault at such a high speed, it's very, very easy to take too much speed in. He tries to go to the inside through Repsol here, and somehow he's done it. So that is P17 for Bischoff. Holding on though, that is going to be Marco Schada trying to fire around the outside of in the Honda there. A little bit of contact there behind us. Eric Muxka gets involved with the two of them as well. This is starting to get a little bit shady there. And well, there you go. Right, pit stop window is open, and that is exactly what you want to see. These little, like I said, these little pocket battles, 2, 3, 4 cars all involved. As I am looking at this battle for the leads here, and I'm seeing Grantis Caracas all over the back end of Jack Alexander here, I am absolutely convinced that that car is sandbagging right now. I'm positive that the two of them are managing the pace, so to speak.
Well, I'm sure Grantis is. I think Jack, I mean, it behooves him to push as hard as possible, honestly, because he could still try and hold the lead if he gets himself a massive gap. I don't think that's happening the way that we're seeing Caracas basically hold him accountable here. But yeah, that 15-second penalty to serve at the pit stop, I mean, if he builds a big enough gap, he could come back out in the lead or at least close to it.
And again, this is what makes this championship so absolutely riveting. And as always, we'd love for you to be involved and take part. Get over to the Genisus Extreme Discord channel and get yourself signed up for inevitably the next season that we get, because this has been just so in high demand here. It's really been a fantastic championship to be part of. But Eamon Murphy chasing down Noah Ada right now. This is the battle for P10, and then you've got a whole heap of cars behind him. Honza, you've got Albin Manson, Valentin Barrier also in contention there as well. But with the pit stop window being open, again, not seeing too many drivers jumping into this early stage. Realistically, this will be the first lap that we can actually see cars coming in. Now, this driver here, Valentin Barrier, this is, you know, we saw last time out was up in the top 5, was a ridiculously good performance for Barrier, but this is more usual of where we see Barrier, and then I have to preface that immediately because that sounds really rude and really disrespectful. But what I mean is, how many times this season, Joe, have we seen this driver start just outside the top 10 and then through the course of the race, like a hot knife through butter, get up into the top 10 and just outside the top 5?
Valentin's kind of that driver after my own heart. I'm not fast, but I am a safe pair of hands, and so I can just, rip off the laps and try and consistently put those down to the point where I wind up usually higher than I qualified just by others falling by the wayside and making mistakes. And I think that's what we've been seeing out of Valentin. This may be proving to be a track that's going to be more difficult to try and rely on, as he is up to, looks like he's promoted himself now to 12th, as we've had a couple cars maybe pit in already. But yeah, I think he's going to have to stay ultra patient here today and try and use whatever he can, any tools in his pocket. That looked like a bit of a moment there through Repsol.
It's a big moment and a half there. The car just sliding as he's trying desperately to get everything all at once, trying to get the brakes on and try to get traction and try to get the throttle down at the same time. And you're going to have to pick two of them because you're not going to get all four at the same time. But Barry is still into the back of Albin Manson here. So we have had 3 cars, I believe it is, into pit lane just now, going very early. I do have to say, I don't think that's the right call tonight. I think normally I'm a big fan of the overcut anyway, but I think tonight especially, I think the overcut is going to be very, very powerful indeed. It's certainly not going to be an issue for weather. It's beautiful sunshine is what we've got here now scheduled for the next, at least next 15 minutes. I think we're going to get clear weather until the end of the race here. Again, we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But tyre degradation doesn't seem to be too much of an issue here as Eamon Murphy into pit lane there.
All right, so Murphy pitting in. It looks like he's got another one. Addison coming in to pit with him. Muxka also. This is somewhat surprising that we're seeing so many drivers take the earlier stop. We're not even to the halfway point. Meyer also going to be taking a stop. So, we'll watch and see, because maybe they know something we don't that'll wind up having jumped the drivers they're racing with. But I wouldn't put money on it, if you ask me.
I wouldn't be putting money on anything, mostly because I'm Scottish and incredibly stingy. But either way, these drivers, the thing is that, maybe these drivers are using tools like ACC Drive to get an idea of when they should be putting in. And if you want to use a tool like ACC Drive, ladies and gentlemen, then you can grab yourself a lifetime license for just €25. I'll tell you what, if there's a better shill in this industry here, Joe, you're going to struggle to find them. That was flawless.
Exactly. Well done, sir. And Rozier here, sitting and trying to fight for fourth with Malinowski. I thought with such a good start and also with the speed we've been seeing out of Machies that we'd see him be able to kind of like run away from these guys and go back to fight with Grantas, but that's not been the case. So maybe there is just a slight bit of damage, or maybe it rattled him a bit that start of the race.
Possibly. I think the weird thing was with that Porsche, we don't know what the race pace was like on it. So it could have been that he was feeling very opportunistic. He just got a great start and wanted to make the move there. But certainly it feels like it's been going backwards at a rate of knots. He's just not had the pace at this early stage of the race to hold on. It's Philip Minnaar and Noah Eder into pit lane already. So we've already had, you've got Mikhail Statsenko, Chris Hartfeld, Eamon Murphy, Luke Harrison, and you've got Muxka and Henry Meyer in there who have been in the pit lane already. So I mean, those are drivers that are not slow by any means of the word whatsoever, so they might be deciding to throw something different in terms of strategy and want to see how it works out.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be willing to throw the dice like that and see what happens, especially if you're in a situation where already disadvantaged or things like that. It just all depends. You kind of have to play it by ear in racing. That's where it usually helps to have someone on the box, even in sim racing, so that you can focus on the driving and someone else can look at the big picture and tell you, you know what, we're gonna try this and see what happens. Caracas obviously knows what's up here, because if he's aware of that penalty, man, he is stuck like glue to that Ferrari in front of him, not letting him get anywhere.
He absolutely is, and you were mentioning about being quite spontaneous and well, that looked like a little bit deep there actually from Caracas. Making things up as you go along is absolutely my favourite ethos for life. It's just that you have to react so often in terms of the race, in terms of the strategy, in terms of the way that you drive these races here as well, and that's exactly what we're seeing here from these two. The problem I think for Jack Alexander is with that 15-second penalty, if they had been able to rock it away, which I thought they maybe would have done at the start of this race, because it was opening the gap up, but I think that was because Casarino, Malinowski and Rozier were all fighting tooth and nail to get that one position. Now that Casarino's been released here, I don't think they're gapping as much. If anything, I think Casarino is very, very slowly clawing the gap back to these two here. So when Jack Alexander has to serve that penalty, I think he's going to come out and he's likely going to be in probably P14, I think, when that is all said and done here.
Yeah, that seems about right to me. Is Max Frank having taken up some of the spots that he had lost out on at the start due to others taking pit stops, but he hasn't been in yet. Minnaar looks to be the highest one to have finished his pit stop right now, and that is down in 20th position. So those drivers who pitted early hopefully aren't going to be running into these drivers that are going long in front of them. See, that's the big risk that you take if you pit early, is if you're trying to make up time and run quick laps, then you need that clear track, and you can't be having these cars that are on a different strategy in front of you.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Marco Bischoff has also been into to pit lane. In fact, he's fallen down the order quite quickly. That is the wonderful ACC timing tower having a bit of a moment as well. He'll filter out into his actual position very, very shortly, as we have Jack Alexander then into the pit lane. This is going to be very, very interesting indeed. But Grantas Caracas has stayed out, and also that means that maybe a little bit of a grin from Maciej Malinowski as that Porsche drives past the Ferrari, taking its penalty in pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to feel like justice served for sure, because he'll be at least onto the podium after this pit stop, as long as he has a normal stop. Eamon Murphy, in the meantime, who we know already had his pit stop, is still fighting with Eder after they both have taken their service. So service has resumed as normal, I guess you could say, for them.
Yeah, potentially. The thing is with it being halfway through the race already, you just get a feeling there's a sting in the tail right now. It's all it's all a little bit quiet here. I was expecting a little bit of quiet, but this is kind of unnerving how quiet this is just now. As Jack Alexander has done his pit stop, he comes out of pit lane and comes back out onto the circuit. Not quite yet. He's going to be behind these two here. So, I mean, that is quite far down, but bear in mind, quite a few of those cars out in front still have to jump into pit
Did
lane.
Malinowski get jumped?
I think he
Or
did.
is he ahead of them? I'm trying to see. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. I was looking at
It's
the wrong
not
thing.
updated.
Apologies.
There
Yeah.
we go. The panic is over.
Yeah.
I do wonder why it does that. The ACC time tower is quite funny. Is the rest of well, it looks like the rest of the cars come in. Caracas, Casarino, Razier, Boothby, Honzig will possibly come in as well. Yep, there he is. Albin Manson into pit lane. You've also got Cody Sherritt into pit lane. Goodness, everyone's in there. This is going to be a very quiet lap because there's Florian Durkop in as well. I've never seen that before, where one lap you've got like 10 cars that just decide they want to come into pit lane as well.
Truly bizarre. I mean, and on the surface, you know, that seems like the best strategy is you just split it perfectly in half between the two halves of the race. There's a lot of blinking there, unfortunately, from Alexander. And he is just behind. Who is he just behind?
Oh,
there?
no. Is he gone? I can't see that one on the track map anymore.
Yeah, looks like he's been automatically towed to the pit, so he must have ran out of connection, and the internet is just not good enough.
Oh, no. That is... well, I'm going to hold my my judgment on that one, but I have a feeling I know it's... Yeah. If it's what I think it is, I don't think it's a connection issue. If he's... put it this way, if we get a replay and he's spun it, and then he goes, then that would... well, actually, quite a few of the cars are blinking left, right and centre. We'll keep an eye on that, because maybe it's some connection issues, but yeah, weird. Anyway, either way, back to the race itself then. So a big development then. That hands the lead then to Grandes Caracas. Now the question is, Joe, can he hold on from Amadeo Casarino? Because that's a hell of a jump in gap as well, because that gap was just under 3 seconds, now up to 4.5.
Yeah, I think Caracas was indeed being held up by Alexander there earlier, so this has definitely played into Grantis' hands now that he's been able to take his pit stop and really stretch his legs out. But I thought Malinowski would be on the podium. He's still working on the number 29 in front of him, unfortunately, as we check out Lenar just behind him as well. In fact, it almost looks like Tommy is kind of the plug in the spigot on this one.
You could be right, actually, on that, because I was looking at Malinowski and it didn't look like he had a lot of pace early on in the race, but certainly now after he's had his pit stop, he looks absolutely alive right now. But Tommy Razier, yeah, he's going to have a big job right now to hold on to that. Last lap that he did was a 1:42.655, and everybody is around about that time, if not a little bit faster here. So, you know, you were mentioning earlier on about how you attack better than you defend. I'm absolutely the same. I crumple like a cheap suit when I'm put under any sort of pressure whatsoever, as Chris Hartwell gets very close to this group there. You can see also Mikhail Statsenko just in the background, but you know, with the fact that all the pressure is seemingly on Tommy Razier just now, I actually think it's the other way about. I think the pressure is actually going to come to Malinowski from Philippe Minard and Mikhail Statsenko. I think they're the ones that are potentially going to put that Porsche under more pressure than, say, the McLaren in front. And if they do, I think that's going to let Tommy Razier streak away.
Certainly, that's what he's hoping for right now, is that if he backs them up into each other, they'll start to fight one another instead of him, and that can really allow him some freedom in this situation. But so far, that's not happening. Statsenko kind of bringing up the rear of it as race control is giving a 15-second penalty for car number 310, causing a collision. That is... where is that? Ooh, that is a car that is gone, unfortunately. So don't have that number on me right now, so we'll try and dig that up a little bit later. But that makes it a bit of a moot point. But they do that anyways, just in case the driver does rejoin. They got to try and serve that penalty regardless. Tommy still leading them. Last time he kind of snaked the train down the main street. Let's see if he does that again to keep them from getting a run.
I'm just
there
having.
it is.
Yep, there we go, down that back stretch there. But again, it's just not enough, is it? It's just not able to do anything with it. I was just actually getting an ID on that 310 car. That was Maximilian Frank that was there, and that was Cody Sherritt that he ended up bumping into for that penalty. Interestingly, though, that we're still having penalties from lap 1, such as how chaotic that opening lap was here. But since that is done and dusted, it has kind of eased off a little bit. I mean, like I said here with Tommy Rozier, he's actually starting to pull a little bit of a gap here now. It's Maciej Malinowski that's coming under the pressure. I just don't think that Porsche seems to have the pace right now.
Yeah, it might not be a track that suits it quite as well. Bischoff, though, getting wheel to wheel is going to be on the wrong side down into Seat. Oh, he doesn't need it. He is fully through. Nice move by the 2 car to get 13th.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But then again, that's almost certainly going to be a move that was, sort of telegraphed, that was sort of planned many corners in advance here. Such as the way that Barcelona is, it's such a track where you have to be smooth on your inputs, and if you can, and you can build up that speed and you can build up that pace, it makes it very easy for you to catch cars. What you don't want is for you to have an overspeed on the car in front, then have to lose that speed, because that's when the car in front has the advantage, because they can just get back onto the throttle, back onto the power, and kind of leave you for dust. But at the moment, it is still Grandes Caracas in the lead of the race here, as we've got just over 20 minutes left to go. That gap now has extended to 4.7 seconds to Amadeo Casarino in that 23 Aston Martin. In second place, here's Philippe Minard onto the back of Maciej Malinowski, pulls late out into turn 1, battle of late breakers, very close, and that was always going to be contact with the two of them there. Unbelievable stuff there. You get the feeling there, Joe, that was kind of to be expected, and that was both of their faults. Neither car there wanting to back out of that.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. I was surprised Malinowski defending as hard as he was. I mean, braking all the way down the middle of the road into the braking zone instead of getting back to the racing line. He was going to have a tough time making that corner. His rival just kind of sliding into him. If he had given a tiny bit more space, I think they both would have gotten away with it. But I mean, I can't blame Malinowski if he's driving with a bit of red mist right now.
Oh no, absolutely. You can understand the frustration. You can understand the anger that would be going on. It's definitely just not been his night, and that car now, unfortunately, on the verge of being dumped out the top 10. And is it going to be Jaroslav Honzik that's going to have the honours to do that? Because if he gets past one, he's almost certainly going to get passed by Albin Manson, who is waiting there as well. And yeah, look, that car is... It's safe to say that car has not been running on full beans for the course of the evening, but certainly after being hit twice, it's not going to do anything for the straight line performance on that thing.
Not at all. And you need that here, and you need the comfort in these corners as well. I wonder if the Porsche just is not a car that's well suited to this circuit. I mean, he's the only one in the top 10. Is there anybody else actually out there? I think he's the only car right now in the Porsche.
You are absolutely spot on. Yep, only Porsche in the fields just now. I think, didn't we have Maximilian Frank? It was the only other car I think was in the Porsche.
Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, it's frustrating to see. But either way, it's something that you mentioned earlier on as well. You get some tracks that work out for some drivers and some tracks that just don't work out for drivers. And I think this is a case of the latter here at Barcelona for the Porsche. But either way, 20 minutes left to go in the race. Now, if we're looking at any of the top 10 here, the likes of... I mean, there's still a cracking battle going on between Hartwell, Statsenko, Eder and Murphy. They're all separated quite closely as well for that 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th battle there. But outside of that, how hard do you think these cars are going to be pushing at this point? Or do you think it's just a case of now, let's just bring it home?
Well, I think you should push. There's still plenty of time. And if you've got the pace, you might as well try to get up on top of that car in front of you, put the pressure on. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to pass, but nothing in life worth having is easy, right? So you got to try and work on it because they could make a mistake. Someone in front of them could make a mistake. If you ease off now and you give up, 0.2 of a second per lap, then someone who has an accident like our leader could wind up ahead of you. Now, congrats, let's get this out of the wall because he's not moving.
That's a hardware failure. I will lay a lot of money on the heart that's just gone. That car is absolutely into the final chicane. Nobody loses it like that into the final corner there. That car is not even attempted to turn. If you look at the trajectory of it, it's literally just went straight on at that final corner there. Absolute heartbreak for your former race leader. Genisus Caracas drops out the server and he is done and dusted, and that hands, well, it certainly hands the lead to Castorino, but this now maybe gives a little bit of a fire to Tommy Rozier and to Chris Hartwell to get their act together and see exactly what happens here.
Wow. I was thinking that, I shouldn't say anything about Caracas and his bad luck this season because he's been so fast and he hasn't been able to get the results. Either he gets penalties or all these other things that keep happening. And even without saying it, I managed to commentators curse the guy.
I'm sure that was absolutely unrelated. Absolutely unrelated. We're not going to have any of that here. Let's see. Right, so we're on board then, coming through the final chicane. Through the right-hander. Over wide. Yeah, car's done. I mean,
He's
that
still
is
steering it, but I wonder if the monitor, the monitor went out or something like that.
Oh, that's actually a good point. Maybe there was. Well, either way, yeah, that's what it looks like. It's Marco Bischoff sends up the inside. That's not a move that we see all too often up the chicane there. Trying to get back is Cody Sherritt as well as Luke Harrison there, but that is going to be Marco Bischoff's every single day of the week there. And Luke Harrison, as much as he wants to have a little nibble to try and get that position back, is not going to have that. Marco Bischoff up to P11. And, well, I mean, this race really has just had everything. Back to that moment, though, from Genisus Caracas. I mean, that it doesn't look like it was for me. I'm just trying to see coming out of that corner because it turned left and it didn't feel like.
If it was a full hardware failure like the wheel or something, it would have just locked straight.
Yeah, that's true.
Usually, so that's why I think maybe it's something with like a blue screen or something that we didn't, that doesn't really show itself as obviously, or maybe his VR went out. I don't know if he races maybe with a headset. Also worth noting, I was kind of looking through our order now that it's all been shaken up again. We started out with 2 Ferraris on the front row, and now neither is there. Instead, we've got an Aston Martin leading this thing.
Wow. That is, I don't know what to say about that. Unfortunate, I think, is what we'll say to that one. But ironically, my timing screen has frozen at the moment where Genisus Caracas was still in the lead of the race. So we'll maybe not sort of screenshot that. I also noticed that we've got another penalty that's going to be coming our way very shortly. Again, we'll wait till we get confirmation from race control for that, but just over 15 minutes left to go. You've got to say, I mean, this hour has absolutely flown by tonight here, Joe, and again, I've got to eat some humble pie. I'm going to get some custard to have with it, but I was saying that it was going to be a fairly uneventful race here tonight.
Yeah, we've been proven wrong. It's had its fair share of drama, and I'm starting to notice a trend from Castorino. He won at Imola, where we had kind of a wild race and an unpredictable race with that rain. So he seems to thrive when others are sort of at a loss.
It certainly is, and I mean, the thing with that as well is that, Castorino's not actually done anything other than just racing his race. He's just, I mean, we don't want to give the impression like he's been sitting at home with like a hex spell book or something like that, or with a pair of shears and sending folk round to the internet connections and things like that. But he's done everything he needs to, and sometimes that's just, you know, keeping your head above water. Incident between cars 992 and 255 on lap 22. It's a 15-second penalty for car 255. That is Philippe Minard. And wait, that's on for Maciek Malinowski. So yeah, okay.
So they took a different view than us on that, but which they could see more angles. So that's why it's their job. And my guessing is that he thought they thought that he went in there maybe a bit too aggressive and maybe slid out from the apex, because we saw it from the outside, so we didn't see whether or not Malinowski was pinching him down or if he had a whole couple lanes to his inside that could have been taken by that car. Regardless, the result is that Minard's probably not going to be having a top 10 finish here today.
Yeah, I think Minard is going to be raging. It's the polite way to say that. Anyway, but either way, just had confirmation there that Genisus had a game crash. That's why we lost them from the lead of the race. That is a certified oof moment on that one, and I mean, my stomach feels sick at the thought of that.
Yeah, as the kids say, big yikes. So that's second week in a row, unfortunately, that he's had those sort of problems, and he's going to have to try and maybe check through the PC and see what gremlins are causing these crashes for him, send something into the AAC guys and see why he keeps getting this problem. Statsenko promoted up to 4th because of that, maybe even a podium, and seeing if he could replace his fellow Ferrari driver Hartfeld here.
I've got to be honest, I completely feel right now for Grantis. I've been in that situation where I've had consistent PC crashing and could not for love or money get to the bottom of what was going on. And it was like I'd replaced the graphics card, I'd replaced the processor, the motherboard, the RAM, everything you can think of, and then it turned out to be the power supply that was the cause of it. And yeah, it's absolutely gutting, so frustrating. We'll come back to that in just a second as George Boothby tries to side his way back up through the field, gets past Cody Sherritt for P14. Next up is going to be Marco Schada and Luke Addison. But just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, you can claim your lifetime license to ACC Drive, your one-stop shop for everything Assetto Corsa Competizione, whether you need a virtual race engineer, whether you need an overlay for your stream, or whether you need live timings. ACC Drive does it all. Get your lifetime license for just €25 for a limited time only. Scan the QR code at the bottom right of the screen and get your license today. Back with this fight for P3, 4, 5 and 6 right now. This is boiling up very, very nicely indeed. Is Chris Hartfeld going to be able to hold on to this, or has Mikhail Statsenko, Noah Ader or Eamon Murphy got anything to say about it? My money right now is on Eamon Murphy. Watching that car charge through the field, I'm not going to put anything in his way on that one.
I think Ader or Murphy might be our quickest car of this group right now, because remember, they ran down Hartfeld and Statsenko here. I don't remember them being quite this close last time we were looking at this fight. So it's kind of converged, and now it's a question of if you can use the fact that those two are close together to try and kind of steal the spot from Statsenko. Mikhail is going to be a little bit more focused on Hartfeld, and it's always harder to try and be on the attack and the defense at the same time.
It is, and again, from the cars in front, you're having to give everything that you've got. But if you've got a car behind you doing exactly the same thing and you go for a move on that car and it all goes horribly wrong, then you've got a car then that still has the momentum, the same momentum as you did behind you, that can just push it in and take the position for you. So yeah, it's a difficult one for sure. But yeah, you're always going to push. You're always going to try and do that. As we've got just over 10 minutes left to go, ladies and gentlemen, out there in YouTube land as well, in the Genisus Extreme YouTube channel, remember to type in the word risk in the chat and get yourself involved in the giveaway. Chance to win a $10 Steam voucher. Just write in the chat risk, and you can get yourself involved. To the leads of the race though, 4.6 seconds, that's not going anywhere. I can't see Hartfeld catching up on Tommy Rozier earlier either. But my God, this is quite the little battle coming through into turn number 4 just now, and that's all being led, I believe, by Luke Addison.
Yeah, side-by-side racing is not something you see for very long usually here. This is impressive. Everybody's giving each other space, but they're going to be losing a ton of time. The 65 goes off. He just got his wheels in the dirt, and that's all it needed to shove him. Oh, but more problems. Barrier making contact. Was that Boothby?
I think it was, and I think Boothby's already had a penalty tonight for contact. That might very well be another little trip to the steward's office on that one. So Boothby coming into contact there with Valentin Barrier. So this is all getting very, very brutal in these final 10 minutes of the race here. Florian Durkop chasing down Valentin Barrier as well. You've got the Honda there of Marco Schada. Now, that was absolutely textbook. We see that time and time again there. What happened with the Honda is that he was on the outside line, wanted to try and hold that in, and as soon as you try braking on the curbs, you are in for a bad time because the car just will not stop. And that's exactly what happened. He went skiing across the gravel on the outside, and thankfully he rejoined just to give us enough insight into what happened with Barrier and Boothby there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's all it really took. If you're in a corner that really takes a lot of commitment, dipping the wheels in the grass is almost always going to send you on a spin. You can sometimes get away with that here and there in places where you're not putting a lot of pressure on those tires that are in the grass, but that definitely is not one of those spots.
It really, really isn't. However, with just 8 minutes left to go, there's very little to suggest that this race is going to start calming down, and any of these drivers are in that sort of finishing mode right now, because we've got a 6-car battle for 12th position right now. You've got Luke Harrison, Cody Sherritt, George Boothby, Valentin Barrier, you've got Florian Durkop and Marco Schada all involved in that. And then as well, you've got that 4-car battle. We'll need to go and check up on that as well for Chris Hartveld, Mikhail Stasenko, Noah Ader and Eamon Murphy. Now, they're all playing nicely just now, but I've got the feeling the gloves are going to come off in the next 5 minutes here. 7.5 minutes left to go here, Joe. Something has to give with these drivers.
Yeah, I mean, this is where Hartveld's going to earn his 3rd position, because he's going to have to withstand all that pressure from behind from 3 different cars that are going to be hungry to be able to stand on the podium at the end. And what's even more interesting about this is we've got 2 Ferraris and 2 McLarens. Which car is going to favor this track a little bit more and its sort of unique characteristics?
The problem with that as well is Barcelona is one of those tracks that it absolutely has its winners and losers. We've seen that the Porsche is definitely one of the big losers out of that. Malinowski able to get himself up onto the 2nd row of the grid for qualifying, and then it's just been dropping like a stone ever since. To be fair though, a top 10 finish is not what I expected for that Porsche. I thought he was going to get absolutely just taken right down the order. Same with the BMW. Philippe Minard doing a grand job of holding still, but again, that car is going to finish outside probably the top 15 once that penalty is done and dusted. But it seems like it's been a Ferrari and a McLaren track here just now, which makes the potential win by Amadeo Castorino even more impressive, given that he has not faced any challenge so far just now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that old adage we love to say, to finish first you must finish. And Amadeo is proving that here today. Like I said, a racer after my own heart, where you just keep it on the black stuff while everybody falls off the island. You keep plopping off laps, and eventually you get to that checkered flag before everybody else.
Yeah, and it does sound like really, really simple. It sounds like really straightforward, but there's so much more to the performance than that, and that's exactly what Amadeo has done here tonight. I think to be fair, obviously when we get a chance to speak to him in the post-race chats, I think he'll be fairly happy with the performance that he has popped in here tonight. We're still watching this fight for 3rd position though, as Chris Hartveld's still holding on. You've got Mikhail Stasenko looking every which way but loose. Noah Ader as well, Eamon Murphy. Actually, Eamon Murphy starting to kind of drop off a little bit, I think, from this little fight here. So I don't know how concerned they have to be, but it definitely does look like Mikhail Statsenko is angling himself up for a move here.
One thing, these cars do require a little bit of clean air to try and get the most out of them. They're not going to be as hindered as they would open wheelers at a track like this, but it can still definitely hurt your performance if you're trying to get close to another car. So I wonder if Murphy was backing it off just for a second, maybe cooling the tires a little bit so he can try and give it a charge and move forward in these last couple laps, because we're coming down to, what, about 3 laps to go here? And if you're going to make something happen, you got to make something happen soon.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, and we're seeing that. It looked like Statsenko dropped back a little bit actually to Ader, but then in turn Ader drops back to Murphy. They then catch up, so it's this cat and mouse game that they've got going on here. And you'd think if any of the 4 of them had that outrageous pace, then they'd be able to either get the move done and get it done quite quickly. But the problem is that I honestly think there's some gamesmanship going on here as well here, Joe, because you've got Statsenko, Hartwell, Ader and Murphy. Neither one of them really wants to pull the pin until the very last moment, because they don't want to give the other person behind the chance to actually make that happen, as we see Statsenko here onto the back end of Hartwell, but again deciding that this isn't the time to pull that trigger right now. And you know that they've got the ability to, because Noah Ader just immediately closes right back up. But look at how vulnerable that leaves Statsenko after he decides not to make a move on Hartwell. Ader again right back up there and starts to become a threat here.
Yeah, you can't be half-hearted about the moves here at the end if you're in the middle of the train. They have to be decisive ones where you feel like, okay, I'm really going for it, or I know I can make this stick. Because if you just kind of show yourself halfway, you're now not on the optimal line. And the car behind you is going to pick up on that and try to position themselves in a way that they can basically capitalize on where you're going to be weak now that they know where you're putting yourself. So, like I said, it's either you do or you don't kind of thing.
Well, with 2.5 minutes, I think we're away to find out who does, and who doesn't. Oh, English is such an easy thing at 10 to 9 of the evening. Right, driver of the day is something that can rescue us from this vocabulary hellhole right now. Who gets your vote? Is it Amadeo Castorino, Tommy Rozier, Grantis Caracas, or Chris Hartwell? As on track things are starting to get a bit spicy now. I think Statsenko knows that he has to pull the trigger now. We're on the penultimate lap of the race. We will get the last lap as Castorino completes the next one here. Statsenko though onto the toe of Chris Hartwell. Then they come past the Kaiser Banks show there, and it's on to turn 1. Is it going to be a move? It's still not a move here from Statsenko here, so it does make me wonder, is he literally leaving it to the last minute here?
I wouldn't want to do that at a track like this. It's not like earlier where we saw drivers have maybe opportunities to try and slipstream by and make an easy slam dunk pass so that they aren't attacked back on the lap after. You really need that track position. So I'd say if you're Statsenko, don't try and play any games. Just, be smart about it, but make it happen as soon as you can.
And yet it's not, because the thing is, for me, I'd be more concerned about Noah Ader getting very, very interested in that position. And the thing is that, if if Hartwell loses one position, you can almost guarantee that car is going to be losing at least another position there as well, with the fact that Ader and Murphy are chomping at the bit like very, very hungry wolves. As your race leader, Amadeo Castorino, comes through into the rack chicane for the penultimate time. We're going to get one more lap here. I've also just noticed that we have got a ridiculous battle for 13th going on here, for 12th position. Luke Addison, Corey Sherritt, George Boothby, Valentin Barry and Florian Durkop and Marco Schada all separated by less than a second. But here we go on to the final lap of the race. Amadeo Castorino leads the cars down to turn 1.
Yeah, with a healthy gap of 5 seconds that's been kind of holding station for some time. Murphy's looking close. Now's the time to do it. Last lap. Let's see if he tries to poke his nose, because he's not showing it yet, unless he's got a sneak attack up his sleeve. No, he's going to stay behind. That may have been it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well, but I would like to cut back, as that's a mistake that's deep from Hartfeld into turn 2, but it's not able to be taken upon by Statsenko. I would like to see this fight for P12 as well, because you've got a whole gaggle of cars all waiting to go here. That looks absolutely amazing as well. You get the feeling that something is going to kick off. We need to have about 5 different monitors on this one, because we've got so many different battles here. Statsenko having a little nibble there at Chris Hartfeld, isn't able to make anything move here. I mean, I wouldn't like to think that they're just going to be happy with the status quo, but maybe they are here.
I doubt that. If I know racing drivers, they will want
Am I
to try
just
and
being
make
optimistic and naive
yeah,
here?
I think a little bit. I mean, maybe if someone is in a much higher position than they're used to being, they could try to solidify it and not try to throw it away. And that's definitely something Castorino wants to do here. No reason to try and threaten the race. He's home free.
Certainly is. Through the final rack chicane for the final time. 34 laps are in the books, but round 5 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, and it's an unlikely win for Amadeo Castorino, always the bridesmaid but never the bride. That ends tonight here at Barcelona. It's a race win for the number 23 Aston Martin. It's Tommy Rozier who crosses the line for Genesis Esports in 2nd position, but it's going to be Chris Hartfeld to take 3rd place, Mikhail Statsenko in 4th position, Noah Eder in 5th, Eamon Murphy in 6th, Maciek Malinowski does get a P7 in that Porsche, Philippe Menard in 8th, Jaroslav Honzin gets the top 10 in the 39 Aston Martin, and what a way to finish out then. It's 11th place for Marco Bischoff, 12th place for Luke Addison, Cody Sherritt in 13th, Valentin Barrier in 14th, Florian Dudkoff in 15th, George Boothby in 16th, and Marco Schada rounded out that little 6-car fight there in 17th position. But my goodness me, what a fantastic race we were treated here tonight, Joe. And again, that top 3, I think, are going to be absolutely delighted with that one. Amadeo Castorino taking the win, Tommy Rozier in 2nd place, and Chris Hartfeld in 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, that was great stuff. For a track that has a reputation for putting on some snoozers, I'd say we got our entertainment's worth tonight.
We certainly did. Well, we are facing down the barrel with time tonight, so we'll make sure that we get the interviews in as quickly as we possibly can. We'll get Chris Hartfeld in, Tommy Rozier in, and Amadeo Castorino. I think, as we said, they'll be fairly happy with tonight. But championship wise, you know, some big losers tonight. Jack Alexander obviously quitting the race after that pit stop, and then obviously we lost Grantis Caracas there after a hardware issue, a game crash there. Big championship implications, I think, here.
Definitely, because Castorino now finds himself extending his gap up at the front. He's becoming kind of the Scott Dixon of this series here, where he keeps pulling off those decent finishes, and when he's got a car that's got a chance at the win, he doesn't leave anything on the table.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I can see Amadeo Castorino waiting for us to have a chat just now, so we'll bring him in. Amadeo, congratulations on the race win. That kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it?
Hi, good evening, guys.
Good evening. So we were saying, Amadeo, congratulations on the race win there, but I mean, must have been a little bit unexpected.
Oh, yeah. Basically, it was a P2 for me. Honestly, Grantas deserved the win tonight, because I think he have like a game crash again or something like that. It was easily P1. But if also I finished P2, I was happy anyway for the result. But I mean, I take this gift. But yeah, the race was pretty much on the first 10 minutes. I have some battles with other cars, and then I just managed my pace for pull away from P3, and then as I said before, Grantas have the problem and I take the win.
Well, not only that, but you've also taken our viewer vote for driver of the day as well. They felt that you put in an amazing performance today. How was the Aston Martin feeling round the track here at Barcelona?
I mean, was feeling pretty good. It's not that easy to nail the lap on quali. In fact, I didn't close a very good lap, but a honest lap, good enough for start P5. So, and during the race I was feeling pretty good, but like I don't have hurry during the race for do overtakes. I take it easy for don't do mistake, don't have contact with the other drivers, and at the end that pay off. So was good. Also tire wear was pretty good, though, pretty manageable.
Yeah, and towards the end there, it was obviously a very quiet race for you. And, you know, as our co-commentator said there, you know, it's slow but steady. That's exactly what's won the race here tonight, Amadeo. So congratulations again. Is there anybody that you want to say thank you to or say hello to tonight?
Yeah, I just say hello to like the team Racing Point, because like last week I left the team, so like thanks to them for all the result and what we achieved in the last year and a half.
Well, it's a very, very poignant way to round things off again with Racing Point. But congratulations and best of luck for the season ahead.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
So there we go then. Amadeo Castorino having a chat with us, Joe. And, you know, it is still fairly early in the season. That's race 5 in the books here. But a win's a win, and it's still a hell of an achievement with that field.
Yeah, it absolutely is. He's going to be a serious threat. Drivers need to be on their game, because he said exactly what I had suspected, that his MO is not necessarily to be the fastest every single time. He's looking at the big picture.
Yeah, for sure. Let's round things off then. Let's have a look at our driver participation prizes then. We'll spin the wheel and see who wins our first of 2 drivers participation prizes tonight. And it is... so it's... There we go. So it's Bauer that gets the prize tonight. And with it being one driver, I think that might, Joe, make up for that early penalty for the qualifying.
I was just thinking that. It started out poorly and ended pretty well for him.
Yeah, it's done very, very well indeed. Right, so that's the driver participation wheel done. We've got one more to do in just a second, but let's bring in Tommy Rozier, who is waiting to have a chat. Good evening, Tommy. Congratulations on second place. That was quite an eventful race.
Yeah, honestly, I don't understand how I finished P2. My race pace was not that great, but with a good strategy and a bit of luck, I managed to finish P2, so I take it.
Talk us through that race then, because obviously we had quite an eventful moment or moments with the top 2, but for yourself, you were kind of just left to your own devices.
Yeah, exactly. Just there was a crash behind me, so I managed to create a little bit of a gap behind, and Castorino ahead of me was so fast I couldn't catch him up, and just behind, I think he pit pretty early, so his tires was not as great as mine. So yeah, I was a bit alone.
And obviously, some great points towards the second half of the championship. We're coming up to the halfway point very soon. How has the season been so far for yourself, Tommy?
It was not that great. I made too many mistakes, so it cost me a lot of points. So finishing P2 here is very good.
Excellent stuff. Well, congratulations for second place again. Anybody that you want to say thank you to or to say hello to tonight?
I want to thank Genisus, my team, and all my teammates.
Awesome stuff. Well, like we said, congratulations and best luck for the rest of the season, Tommy.
Thank you.
So there we go. Right. Well, I don't think we're going to get Chris Hartfeld in for a chat. I can't see them on there just now. So, Joe, I guess over to you for the viewers' prize.
Indeed. Let's see who of our viewers is going to get a $10 voucher for Steam. Obviously, you could get a number of things and help yourself out. Let's spin that wheel and see who wins today. We had a fun name last time. Do we get an entertaining one this time around? I am Feel. Well, that's a pretty decent one. They're going to be feeling it, as you now have $10 to spend on games on Steam.
That is not to be sniffed at. I'd be quite happy to get a little cheeky Steam voucher, but I don't. I'm not going to do it because I'm not allowed in. I did notice Tariq Adam as well chancing their luck as well this week. But there we go. Barcelona has set its sun for us tonight here for round 5 of the Genisus Risk Kaizen Championship, and that is almost everything from us here tonight. It's been a huge thank you on behalf of myself, David Christie, and Joe Peak for everything tonight. Remember, 12 rounds that we are going to be going. We return next week for Bathurst. We are off to Mount Panorama. And, well, that's definitely not going to be described as a boring circuit. They tackle the thrills and spills of New South Wales, and that is what is up in for us next week. As I said, I've been David Christie. Joining me here in the commentary box has been Joe Peak. On behalf of everyone here at Genesis Extreme, thank you very much for watching tonight. On behalf of all of our partners as well, we'd love to say thank you to ACC Drive and to everyone else as well. It's been an awesome fun to do this, and we will see you at the same time next week. Until then, take care and have a wonderful week. The engines roar in the background, the sun begins to set, the green flag flies, and we are racing here in very sketchy indeed contact, and there goes Valentin Barrier. So, the leader's lost it. Noah Ader loses it into the gravel at the final corner, loses it. That's an amazing bit of work there from Luke Addison.
Inside we have three abreast heading into Brual.
It's been lights to flag victory for George Bidby. He's done everything that's been required. It's looked so bloody easy yet again.